Hi, I'm Larry London. This is Border Crossings. Welcome to another music feature that shines the spotlight on some of today's brightest stars. On today's Border Crossings, we welcome singer-songwriter and reality TV finalist Taylor Phelan. Taylor started writing music at 16 while growing up in Dallas, Texas. He relocated to Chicago when he decided to focus his attention on his music career. He landed a job as a studio singer and a staff writer for a local band called The Canes. In 2014, Taylor auditioned for the popular TV show The Voice and joined Pharrell's team. He says he learned a lot from Pharrell and gained a large following from the exposure. He married and has 2 children and joins us today with his story and also a live performance. Stay tuned for Taylor Phelan coming up on today's Border Crossings. Hi, welcome to Border Crossings. My name's Larry London, and in our studios today, a singer-songwriter who's on tour for his debut EP. Taylor Phelan is with us here in Washington, D.C., and one of 2 is the new album. Congratulations.
It's coming. It is.
That's an exciting time to be a musician.
Yeah, it really is. I'm excited to finally have this music out in the world. It's been a long time coming. So,
Now, you have been in music for a number of years. I guess you started singing and songwriting when you were about 16?
Yep. Yeah. I was about 16. I might have been 15. I think I just round up to 16. But I picked up the guitar when I was 16 and started teaching myself. And I started writing songs right away. I don't know why I did that first, but I could barely play guitar, and I thought to myself I should write some stuff.
And at that time, you were living in Dallas, where you're from originally?
I was living north of Dallas, about an hour north of Dallas. My parents still live there, and that's where I graduated from high school, a little town called Sherman, Texas.
And then you decided to join a band that was based in Chicago, of all places. How did that come to?
Yeah, so I got a call from a pastor at a church, actually, and he flew me up, and I was 19 at the time, so this was all really exciting, having someone pay for my flight and bring me to another city. And I hung out with this guy for a weekend, and he ended up offering me a job to come and work for his church and play music there. And so again, very exciting that someone was offering to move me across country, And so I took it as an opportunity to, get out of town and try something new, and that put me in Chicago. And and then that was a 2-year-long journey to forming my former band, the Canes, and launching what I like to think is my professional music career in Chicago.
Now, you were, when you mentioned you were called there for a job, you were a studio singer? Was that the official title of it?
Yeah, I mean, it was all kind of happening at the same time, I didn't really know what I was. Like, at that time, I was like, I don't really know what music is in my life, and I was trying to figure out. I had never thought about music as a viable career option, like as an occupation,
sure,
vocation.
It's more of a hobby.
Yeah, it was just kind of something that I was just trying to figure out where I fit in, and where it fit into my life. And so, I did have my first studio gig in that time, but I wouldn't have referred to myself as like a studio vocalist, I was just figuring it out.
And you lived in a tent? Did I read that right?
I did. It's a kind of a funny story, and it sounds really dramatic when you just leave it at that. Like, I lived in a tent for a little bit, but I moved into this guy's house, and I was roommates with him for about 9 months, and he was getting married, and he had told me, he was like, "Man, you got to find a place to live. You got to get out of here.
Backyard."
Yeah, my wife's gonna move in, And the time came, and I couldn't find any place to live within my budget, so I had a pickup truck at the time, naturally, because I moved from Texas. And I go over to Home Depot, and I load it up with some lumber. I go over to Dick's Sporting Goods, and I buy a tent. And the church that I was working at the time had a bunch of land. And so I went out into the woods of the church, the church's land, and I built myself a deck so my tent wouldn't get wet, you know? And I pitched a tent, and I lived there for the summer.
Sounds like a horror movie. It doesn't sound like
It was kind of scary.
The
I'm
tent in the
gonna be
woods.
honest. I know it was kind of scary. And looking back at myself, like if I heard about a 21-year-old, who lived in the woods, I'd be like, man, that guy's kind of weird. That's kind of weird.
And you had a
Why
little
would you do
campfire
that?
and cooked your food, and that's how you existed.
I mean, I wasn't like a typical homeless. 20-something. Not that there is a typical homeless 20-something,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. I had 2 jobs, so I ate. I honestly I don't even really remember what I did with my time. I worked. And,
Very smart move. You saved a lot of money.
I saved a bunch of
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
It was great.
Wow.
I would probably do it again. I know Connor would do that.
Oh yeah,
You would love to live in a tent.
dude.
Yeah. That's like your
I think he
ultimate
wants
dream.
a bed anywhere it is right now, whether it's a
At this
tent
point,
or
I'd
anything.
take anything.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So here we are today. The new EP's coming out, and you're on tour, and we're kind of midway through the tour.
Yeah, we are. We've got a week left.
Yeah.
So we've been out. By the end of it, we'll have been out for 20 days. So we've got about 8 days left before we are all home, which is about the limit. Like that's. I
Right.
mean, with like having a family and kids, that's about the timeline that we put on ourselves. And
Where's home
so-
now? Is it Memphis? Is it Dallas? Is it?
It's Dallas.
it's
Yeah,
Dallas.
north of Dallas.
And you made,
North
or you
Dallas,
made
yeah.
the album in Nashville, or
In Nashville, yeah.
Okay.
And I play. It's really confusing because all the guys I play with are. We've got 2 guys from Kansas City, 1 guy from Nashville, 1 guy from Phoenix. I live in, Dallas. So we're literally
Wow.
spread across everywhere. So whenever someone asks where home is, you get a different response depending on who you ask. Yeah.
Well, Taylor Phelan's our guest today, and he's got a new EP coming out. So we're going to ask if you do a song for us off the new album.
This is a song called. Excuse me. This is a song called Mojave, and it's one of the tracks off of one of 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the valley there are bones of men. A lonely death covers the mountain, with the bodies set closing them in. A million lights up ahead, like fiery eyes on the devil's head. And we cried, mercy, mercy, in the face of what we both fear. I found the cure, the cure. I'd hate to lose you in the fire down here, but I can feel the arrows in the face of what we both fear. And what's left to burn, to burn. I'd hate to lose you while I'm holding you near, but I can feel your bones shaking. In Mojave there are shallow graves. A wolf led demons to the garden, with the shadows staying darkened for days. A million-mile stretch of sand. The devil came hungry for a second hand, and he took his plenty. In the face of what we both fear, I found the cure, the cure. I'd hate to lose you in the fire down here, but I can feel the arrows in the face of what we both fear. And what's left to burn, to burn. I'd hate to lose you while I'm holding you near. I can feel your bones shaking.
face of what we both fear. I found the cure, the cure. I'd hate to lose you in the fire down here, but I can feel the arrows, oh, in the face of what we both fear. And what's up to burn, to burn. I'd hate to lose you while I'm holding you near, but I can feel your bones shaking.
All right, sounding great. Taylor Phelan's here. I like that. That's very nice.
Yeah, thank you so
Great
much.
sound. Now, I imagine on the tour you got a whole big band, and everything sounds quite different.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is the acoustic
it's
pared
100%
down.
different.
Wow.
It is really different. This is not an accurate representation of what you would see if you came to a show, but it is a very it's a good version.
Well, you
I like
sound.
that version.
You sound good, and if you sound
Thank
good
you.
with the electric guitars, you sound good acoustically. Then you sound good. There's no denying that.
Thank you.
Now, growing up in Dallas, was it always music? Is this kind of what you set out to do, or did this come up accidentally? How did you discover this business?
Kind of. A little bit of both. A little bit of both. I grew up in a family of, I would say, musically inclined people, but it was more gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was not uncommon for our family to, around a holiday, like gather around the piano, and for my great aunt to like play the piano and everyone sing,
Mm-hmm.
in 4-part harmony. That was not a weird thing. That was actually very normal. But I don't think it was never presented to me as, like I said, a profession. It was never like, well, hey, if you practice and if you do this, like, here's
Mm-hmm.
how you do it. I never had, like a famous uncle or something that, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like taught me the ropes, showed me the ropes, and taught me about the industry or anything like that. It was really just something that you did because you liked doing it. And so there was that part. I always say that I kind of grew up with this awareness of music.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until, I was 16 or so where like some friends kind of over time just overheard me singing, and they kind of tricked me into singing for them, and the feedback was really positive, quite positive. And so for the first time, in my life at that point, I thought, I don't know, people seem to like this. Maybe I could do something with it, So it was a little bit of both. I mean, I feel like I did stumble upon it. It wasn't ever something. I wasn't, that 8-year-old who was like practicing my guitar, or anything like that. I kind of came into it.
It's kind of interesting when you hear a story of somebody who in their teen years, middle of high school, all of a sudden fall into music because either you were writing poetry, writing songs for a while. But that's late to just say, hey, look at this, look what I can do.
Well, and I'd always, I'm a creative. I've always been a detail-oriented creative person. Like even as a kid, even in English class, when we're writing a paper, it was like down to the details of like I would scrap a paper that I was halfway, a page of paper that I was halfway through writing if I didn't like the way that my handwriting actually looked on the page. You know what I mean? So like even down to like the details of that, or art projects or whatever. I mean, I drew a bunch as a kid. I've always liked cooking. You know what I mean?
So you always had the creative bug.
So it wasn't like totally out of nowhere, but it did feel like I've never thought about it like this, So it did feel like something. I discovered something new.
Now, how would you describe? I won't say define, because here in the U.S., everybody likes to put somebody in a box or format, label. I don't want to label your music, but how would you describe your music, the sounds you create?
Honestly, I'm still after 10 years of playing, I'm still trying to discover that.
Where your lane
that's a
is.
conversation that we have often is like, what is this? What are we, what are we doing, and what's the direction? What's the like defining
Right.
characteristics of this music.
For better or worse, it is a business, and they always ask you, okay, what is your format? Where do we put you?
Well, and I mean, the artists that we love, like, I mean, we all love, I'm saying, most of them have a thing. There's a thing there. There's a brand. There's like they can define it and say, like, we're about this or we're about this, you know? And so musically, it's tough. I mean, because there's a pop flair to it. There's a alternative, indie rock flair. There's some like more soulful moments in my voice sometimes, and it's hard to like rein it all in and figure out a direction. And I'm like I said, I'm still figuring that out.
And
like,
you know what?
I don't
The
know
good
exactly.
thing about the business now is that people can buy a song, get a song, and you can be country on one song. You can be R&B on another song.
Yeah.
You can do that. On an album, it's a little harder when you're trying to thread them together to go off.
I
Now,
know.
speaking of albums, this is the debut album. You've had a few years to put the ideas, the songs together and work on the album. One of two. What's the story behind the name for that?
It's clever, huh? It's clever.
It's very creative.
It's actually not that exciting when I demystify it. I just couldn't come up with another name.
Okay.
And the entire team had decided to release this in 2 parts, and so I cleverly named them One of Two and Two of Two. So there's a 2 of 2 down the road. Down
How
the
did I
road.
know that?
Yeah.
And hopefully there will be a full studio album.
Yeah.
Shortly thereafter.
Yeah. There will be, once we release 2 of 2, it'll be available as a collection on vinyl.
Great.
So, that's
everybody's
the idea.
going that way.
I know.
And I still can't find a phonograph player.
Yeah.
But everybody's putting out vinyl, but I can't find a way to play them. But Taylor Phelan's in our studios, and there's a lot to Taylor, and we're going to get into more of it. I mean, he was on television performing for 6 million people every week, and we're going to hear more about that. But I'm going to ask you to do another song, if you wouldn't mind doing that.
Yeah, this is another one off of One of Two, and it's a song called Desire.
Felt alive in the desert. I drew a line from your heart, and still I thought we were tethered. But in this city you've drifted apart. It's the will of the ghost light to lead the travelers astray. I'll keep you warm tonight, hold you close in the bed that we've made. This time, I'll never let you go again. This time, on our journey towards sunset, we built a family by the sea, where the land and the water met. We took a chance to listen for what we need. This time, I'll never let you go again. This time, we're missing out on what we prayed for. So you were looking in the arms of desire, took a step inside the demon's door, giving in to the passion and fire. Desire, you're running right down to the wire. So you're laying in the arms of another. Tame your mind, don't let your heart wander. This time, you know I'll never let you go again. This time, missing out on what we prayed for. So you were looking in the arms of desire. Took a step inside the demon's door, giving in to the passion and fire. Oh, 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 desire. You were running right down to the wire. You were laying in the arms of another. Tame your mind, don't let your heart wander.
Yes, there we go. Taylor Phelan. He's our guest today. You're tuned in to Border Crossings. And so you and Nikki have 2 kids.
We do.
And you're working your way through the alphabet. You started with the A's, Addison and Amelia. Like me, my kids are Amanda and Andrew, so I started in the A's.
A's, very good.
Was there a reason for you?
We don't have very many traditions in my family, but my name's Taylor. My sister's name is Tara. My other sister's name is Ty.
Ah.
So we started with T's. So when we started having kids, I told Nikki, they all got to start with the same letter.
The beginning of the alphabet. And the girls are young. Do they know what Dad does? Do they kind of get it or no?
Yeah. I mean, my 4, Addison's 4. She's almost 4 and a half. So I would say in the past year, she's put together that I travel for work, and she's not a huge fan of that.
Mm-hmm.
I try to soften the blow by bringing her back stuff.
Right. Well, bring her with you on the road.
I might be getting myself into trouble because maybe as she gets older, those gifts she might expect more and more.
Where's that car you promised me, Dad? So here we are. Every week, you're a popular contestant on a very popular music TV contest reality show here in the United States called The Voice. And all of a sudden, you're best friends with Pharrell and Adam Levine.
Besties.
Which not many artists can say. So there you are on the screen being judged and critiqued and also being given advice. So what was the best advice you got? What gem did you take away among all? And I know you got a lot of advice. Do this, do that, don't do this, don't do. But what would you say? Wow, that was a curveball, and that really helped.
I always want to have a different answer for because this, sometimes this is asked. I've been asked this before.
No.
And and I always want to have like a clever new response. But honestly, the one that always sticks out to me when this question is asked is the episode where I got off the show. If you watch that episode, it's funny because we're all standing on stage and they already start rolling the credits, over the last scene. They're rolling the credits. We're trying to find out our fate.
Right.
And I end up going home. Me and Mia Furman.
Mm-hmm.
We got off the show, and I don't remember who was saved. I think Chris Jameson.
Mm-hmm.
It was the one who, it was the 3 of us up there, and he got saved. Anyway, so Chris gets saved. Me and I start heading off stage, and I mean, it just goes black. I mean, they were out of time, so it's alive. So it went black, and we're walking off stage, and it was like, okay, so that's it.
That's it.
That's all. That's our time here, And I remember Adam hopping out of his chair, and he runs over, as we're walking towards backstage, and he runs over and he stops us, and he was like, "This is the worst part. I really hate this. I hate sending, people home and." And we're like saying goodbyes and stuff like that. But he pulls me aside and he was like, "Listen, this is good for you. You need to go home and you need to be writing a record." Implying more than being on the show, I need to go home and I need to be working on music. And so, that I feel like that was really encouraging to me to like have that affirmation from Adam that, I need to be creating my own stuff as opposed to. I mean, I had a great time on the show. This is not a bash on the show or like what the show does for you at all, but even more than me being on a show and singing someone else's songs.
Right.
And being wrapped up in the production of a reality television show.
Right.
It's more useful for me to spend my time writing and working on my own music, and I'm not saying that was necessarily the reason that I got off of the show, but again, it was just it was a solid affirmation for me. So.
Yeah, well, you're one of the rare few contestants on the show where all 4 of the coaches turn their chairs around. For people that don't watch The Voice, and it's around the world in various different forms, but all the coaches are facing the opposite way when you're singing, and if they like your sound, they turn their chair around.
Right.
All 4 of the judges, Blake and Adam and Gwen Stefani and Pharrell, all turned around.
Yeah.
And I know that Gwen, you were one of her favorites.
Yeah.
She told you.
Yeah. I know. That's also hard to be in my position. Can you imagine? Like, it's like, picking a flag football team, and you got the last 4, players lined up against the wall, and I'm the captain of the team, and I got to pick between,
right,
these 4. I mean, that was a
and these are superstars in the bubusiness.
Yeah, I know,
all of them.
Yeah.
And Pharrell is one of the most respected producers.
I know, which is why I picked Pharrell. I mean,
yes.
he's the guy that producers go to produce their record.
And they also, I mean, there's kind of a little bit of pressure that comes with this now. Now you've done the TV show and you've done well, and you went pretty deep into the eliminations and whatnot. The expectations are high, and there's a lot of people that come through these TV shows you never hear from again. They are really talented people.
Oh yeah,
but you never hear from them again.
Yeah, I know. It's a really complex thing to come out of. It took me about a year, honestly. About a year to recalibrate and to learn. I mean, you're coming off of just such an enormous platform, and the turnover rate. I mean, they have 2 seasons a year. You know what I mean? Which means they start out. I mean, how many people do they start out with? 30 something or 40 maybe. So you're talking 80 contestants come through a year.
Wow.
That are seen on TV between blind auditions and the end of, the finale of 2 seasons. So, I mean, you're talking 80 contestants a year. The turnover rate is just incredible. And so it took me about a year to learn, like, the people who are interested in you while you're on the show, it doesn't necessarily translate to, like, ticket sales. You know what I mean? Or like CD sales.
Right.
And it doesn't, just because, there's a town that says, you're famous here, you should come play a show here, you're famous. It doesn't mean that you're going to sell that place
That's
out.
right. It's
or
all
anything
relative.
like that.
Exactly.
It's so it's weird. It's a very strange thing to come off of. You have, like, while you're on the show, you have, like, almost, paparazzi.
Yeah,
you
well, you are
like,
a superstar.
Yeah, it's like there's this moment where it's just everything is so magnified, and then you go home and it's not like that.
Right.
I mean, in some circles it still is, and the fact that I was on The Voice is still benefiting me greatly, in some circles and in some ways, and you got to learn how to leverage it.
It's kind of like you're starting over. You had the boost of that, but you still got to climb up that that hill.
It's not. The show doesn't just make it happen.
Not an
for
instant.
You.
Fame.
That's not what happens. And you coming off the show, you feel like it does. Even me. And I would say I'm a pretty hard person to, like, fool. You know what I mean? I don't think I, like, give in to like the fluff of a lot of that kind of stuff, but it really does kind of skew, like, your perspective a little bit. So
we're talking with Taylor Phelan, who is promoting his brand new debut EP, one of 2, and we're going to ask if you do another song, and I guess this is the debut single from the album.
This is the one. This is a song called Settle Down. and it was the first single off of One of Two. Really, really proud of this song. And I had the opportunity to work with a really great director and film a really cool music video for this that I just released a couple weeks back. So that's everywhere online. Paste Magazine actually picked it up and they did the premiere, so that was really great of them. And it's just been received really well. It's probably one of the more message-driven songs that I've ever written. And
can you tell us what the message is?
Yeah. So it's inspired by our current climate, politically, culturally, just all the stuff. Just I feel like where we are as I would think that there's a global representation in the song, but I'm American and I have my perspective here, and so
Sure.
We were talking a little bit about that. So it's a song about our human nature and the way that we tend to treat one another when there's a disagreement. Like humans interacting is always a weird, sticky thing, and there's always going to be opposition. And the trouble is that our default mode when there's opposition is to almost dehumanize the person on the other side of that argument. And so Settle Down is kind of a call for us to all just it's standing in the middle of all sides, and just saying hey, let's like calm down and let's try and honestly do our best to make room for a discussion, conversation.
The voice of reason.
Voice of reason.
All right.
So
Taylor Phelan and Settle Down here on Border Crossings.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Within our body there's a core infection, and every time that we choose a side, it weakens the poor connection to our hearts from our minds. We turn our back on our helpless brother and then define him as a social class. It's human nature to divide each other, 'cause we're all afraid to finish last. And I know it's hard sometimes, but we're making it worse. Let's try to see things from the other side. Let's change it up. Or do you want to see how far this goes? We've had enough. All this blow from blow. And let's settle down, settle down, settle down, settle down. In every kingdom there's a crooked figure that makes it easy to assign the blame. And from the bottom it's an unfair picture, but in the end you see we're all the same. Can you be certain that you do much better? It can't be easy to have all the power. Can we decide not to oppress each other? Or is it bred into the skin of ours? And I know it's hard sometimes, but we're making it worse. Let's try to see things from the other side. Let's change it up. Or do you want to see how far this goes? We've had enough. All this blow from blow. And let's settle down, settle down, settle down, settle down. Let's change it up. Or do you want to see how far this goes? We've had enough. All this blow from blow. Let's change it up. Or do you want to see how far this goes? We've had enough. Oh, all this blow from blow. And let's settle down, settle down, settle down, settle down.
Taylor Phelan, Settle Down, off the new EP, one of two. And how can people get that EP, Taylor, if they want to get a copy in there around the world and don't have a local record store?
August 18th, it will be available, I think, everywhere. I think globally. I mean, everywhere.
iTunes, Apple, Amazon,
iTunes,
everything.
Google Play, Amazon.
How about your website?
All of the other stuff. You know, that's a good question. Yes, I
Good.
will say it will at least be able to be found on there. So, yes.
And where do people go to find your website?
TaylorPhelan.com.
And it's spelled?
Taylor, P as in Paul, Helan.
Little Irish in that.
Oh, yeah.
Phelan.
Phelan.
For the benefit of the worldwide audience, TaylorPhelan.com. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for
Pleasure
having
to
us.
have you guys. And now Connor can get some sleep.
I know it. Yeah, we're going to go crawl in bed, take a nap.
Thank you, guys. Come back and see us next time you're in D.C.
Yeah, of course. We'd love to.
Our guest is Taylor Phelan. One of two is the new EP. My name's Larry London. You're listening and watching Border Crossings.